Welcome to the deep dive, where we unpack complex topics and really get to the heart of the insights from the sources you share with us. Today, we're diving into something that, well, many of us might face, and it can feel pretty intimidating, being stopped by the police in India.
It really can. And it's a scenario that can happen almost anywhere, right? You could be at a routine traffic stop, maybe you're at a public gathering, a protest even, or just, driving late. Our goal today is really to give you a shortcut to being informed,
Hmm.
to provide that essential knowledge that could protect you, ensure your safety, your peace of mind, really, in those moments.
Exactly. Think of it as your legal survival kit. We've put this together based on the guidance out there. We'll be going through your rights, what the police are actually allowed to do, and maybe most importantly, what steps you can take to safeguard yourself. So, what does this all mean for you, the citizen, when you're faced with a police stop? Let's unpack this.
The context of encounters, why you might be stopped.
Okay, let's start with the basics. Why might you even be stopped by the police in India? The sources point to a few key reasons, don't they?
They do, and it's important to understand the range. Police stops can happen for various reasons. First up, probably the most common, routine traffic checks. You see them everywhere.
Right, just checking license, registration, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Checking documents, maybe enforcing traffic rules. It's just standard procedure on many roads. Then there's suspicion of involvement in a crime.
Okay, that sounds more serious.
It can be. If police believe you might have committed an offense or are somehow linked to one, they might stop you. It could be minor, could be part of a bigger investigation.
And what about things like public disturbances?
Yeah, that's another one. Violation of public order. If they perceive that peace is being disrupted, or maybe someone's actions are causing a disturbance. And related to that, stops during protests or public gatherings. Police presence is usually high then, so stops can happen for security, maintaining order, maybe identifying people.
So, even if you're just there not actively protesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You could still be stopped. And finally, there's sometimes just, well, random ID verification.
Just asking for your ID for no specific reason.
It can seem that way. It might be general patrolling, security checks in certain areas, especially if there's a heightened alert. It's part of their broader duties sometimes.
Okay. So the big takeaway here seems to be that getting stopped doesn't automatically mean you've done something wrong. It could just be routine.
Precisely. That's a vital distinction to make. Not all stops are unlawful or mean you're in trouble. But what is always important, no matter why you're stopped, is how you handle it. Your awareness, your behavior, knowing your rights isn't just about being empowered. It helps you stay calm, navigate things effectively. It sets the tone, really.
Right. It prevents misunderstandings, maybe?
Exactly. And stops things escalating unnecessarily. Which brings us to the really crucial question. What exactly are your rights in these moments? How does knowing them help?
Your core rights, the legal survival kit.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, the specific rights that protect you. Your superpowers in a police interaction, you could say. Let's start with one that feels absolutely fundamental. The right to know the reason. This isn't just politeness, is it? It's law.
Absolutely. It's baked into Section 50 of the Criminal Procedure Code, the CRPC.
And the CRPC, just to remind everyone, that's the main rule book for police procedures in India, right?
That's it. And Section 50 is clear. If you are arrested, the police must tell you the grounds for that arrest immediately. They can't just hold you without telling you why. Think about it being detained without knowing the reason. That's terrifying, and it undermines the whole idea of due process.
And what about if it's not a full arrest, just a stop?
Even then, in a more casual stop, you absolutely have the right to ask why you're being stopped or questioned. This right, it prevents arbitrary detention. It forces them to justify the interaction right from the start. It makes things transparent.
So how do you actually do that? How do you ask without sounding, aggressive or difficult?
That's a great question. The sources really emphasize politeness as a tool here. Something simple, calm, like, "Excuse me, officer, may I ask why I've been stopped?" Or, "Is this a routine check, or is there a specific reason?"
Just calm and direct.
Exactly. Calm, respectful. It doesn't mean you're backing down. It just sets a professional tone, can de-escalate things, and it shows the officer you're aware of your rights. That awareness itself is protective.
Okay, that makes sense. Firm but civil. Right, moving on. There's another huge one. The right to remain silent. This comes from the Constitution itself, doesn't it?
It does. Article 20, Clause 3. It's a cornerstone protection, not just in India, but globally, really. It means you cannot be forced to say anything that could incriminate you, that could be used against you in court.
So you don't have to answer questions that might get you into trouble.
Precisely, especially if the questioning is about a potential criminal case. You don't have to provide the evidence against yourself, essentially. It protects your right to a fair trial, prevents coerced confessions, which historically have been a major problem. It acknowledges that power imbalance between the individual and the state.
But again, this feels tricky. People worry, don't they, that if they stay silent, it makes them look guilty. How do you navigate that?
It's a valid concern, but the law is on your side here. You are not being rude or uncooperative if you state clearly, I prefer not to answer that without speaking to my lawyer first.
Or something like, I wish to exercise my right to remain silent on that question.
Exactly. Perfectly acceptable. It's a legal right, not defiance. Understanding you can decline certain questions without it being held against you is incredibly empowering. It stops you maybe accidentally saying something that could be twisted or used later. It encourages you to pause, think.
Yeah.
Maybe get legal advice before you speak. Remember, anything you do say can be used. Silence is often the safest bet.
That's a really crucial point. Prudence, not obstruction. Okay, next up. The police need to identify themselves right, especially if they're not in uniform.
Yes, absolutely. The right to demand police identification. You have the right to ask any officer for their ID, especially if they're in plain clothes. They should show you their official ID card or provide their badge number. And importantly, under the police conduct rules, refusing to identify themselves is actually misconduct.
Why is that so critical?
Well, several reasons. First, accountability. You need to know who you're dealing with if you need to make a complaint later. But also, basic safety. It helps you avoid falling prey to impersonators, fake officers. It happens. Verifying identity is just fundamental, making sure you're dealing with actual, legitimate authority.
Right. Get the details down. Always verify. Good advice. Now, there's a very specific protection for women mentioned about arrests at night.
Yes, this is incredibly important. Section 46, subsection 4 of the CRPC, it offers special protection for women. The rule is clear. No woman can be arrested after sunset or before sunrise.
No arrests at night. Full stop.
Well, there's a very specific exception, but it has strict conditions. An arrest can happen during those hours only in, quote, exceptional cases. And it requires prior permission from a magistrate. And the arrest must be made in the presence of a female police officer.
So multiple layers of protection there.
Exactly. It's not just one hurdle. Magistrate permission and a female officer present. It's designed specifically to prevent abuse, harassment, ensure safety and dignity during those more vulnerable hours. It recognizes potential risks.
So if you're a woman stopped or being detained at night, what should you immediately do or say?
You should be aware of this right and state it calmly. Ask if there's a female officer present, and politely but firmly ask about the magistrate's permission. You have the right to know if these conditions have been met.
Don't just accept an officer saying they have permission.
You have the right to clarity. Knowing these conditions is paramount for women to protect themselves. It's a vital safeguard against potential exploitation or violence.
A really powerful and necessary protection. Okay, what about contacting someone? If you're detained, can you call a lawyer or family?
Yes, absolutely. That's the right to legal aid and to contact someone. It's under Section 50A of the CRPC. You have the fundamental right to speak to a lawyer of your choice. And if you can't afford one, the state has to provide legal aid. Plus, you have the right to inform a relative or a friend about your arrest or detention.
So they can't just hold you without letting you contact anyone, keep you incommunicado.
Exactly that. They are prohibited from keeping you isolated. Communication with the outside world is a key safeguard against unlawful detention, mistreatment, or worse. Denying this right is a serious violation, and the sources highlight if this right is denied, you can bring it up later in bail hearings during the trial. It could seriously impact the case against you.
So it's about immediate help, but also about creating a record if things go wrong.
Precisely. It ensures your support network kicks in, and it puts an immediate check on police power. It brings external eyes onto the situation right away.
Right. And finally, there's one more right mentioned, maybe less obvious, the right to a medical checkup after arrest.
Yes, and this one is often overlooked, but it's crucial. The law states that if you're arrested, you're entitled to a medical examination. Not just once, but every 48 hours while you're in custody.
Every 48 hours.
Yes, and the details of these checkups must be recorded.
That's so important.
Its main purpose is to prevent and document custodial violence or abuse. By having a medical record of your physical condition from the moment of arrest and at regular intervals after that, it creates an objective timeline. If any harm comes to you while you're in custody, that medical record is powerful evidence.
So it's evidence against potential mistreatment.
Exactly. The sources call it very crucial and unlawful detentions. It provides objective proof of your physical state. It's like a silent guardian documenting your well-being or lack thereof while you're detained. Vital for accountability.
When rights are violated seeking redress,
Okay, so you know your rights, you know how to assert them calmly, but what if things still go wrong? What if you feel your rights have been violated during a police stop? This feels like where people might feel powerless, but there are next steps, right?
absolutely. It's critical to know that the interaction itself isn't the end of the story if you feel wronged. The sources lay out a clear path for seeking recourse. And the very first step, the absolute foundation, is documentation. Gather as much information as you possibly can, as soon as you can, while it's fresh.
Like what specifically?
Officer's name, badge number, the police vehicle number, the exact time, the specific location. Note everything down. And if it's safe and legal to do so, like in a public space, recording video or audio on your phone can be incredibly valuable evidence. Objective proof.
So captured the details, then what?
Then strongly consider seeking professional help. Talk to a lawyer, especially one who deals with human rights or criminal law. Or contact a known human rights organization. They have the expertise. They can assess the situation, look at your evidence, guide you on the best course of action. They know how to navigate the system.
And are there official bodies you can complain to besides going straight to a lawyer?
Yes, there are formal complaint mechanisms. The sources specifically mention filing a complaint with the National Human Rights Commission, the NHRC, or the State Police Complaints Authority, the SPCA. These are bodies set up specifically to look into complaints against the police. It's an official channel for grievances.
Okay. And what if it's something really serious, a major violation?
For more serious cases, grave violations of fundamental rights, you can approach the higher courts directly. You can file a petition in the High Court under Article 226 of the Constitution. Or, for fundamental rights violations, you can even go directly to the Supreme Court under Article 32.
What does that mean, filing a petition under those articles, like a writ petition?
Exactly. A writ petition is basically asking the High Court or Supreme Court to issue an order to correct an injustice, enforce a right, command an authority to act lawfully or stop acting unlawfully. Going to the Supreme Court under Article 32 is particularly powerful because the right to approach the Supreme Court for fundamental rights violations is itself a fundamental right. It allows for potentially faster judicial intervention in serious cases.
Wow. So these are really powerful legal tools available.
They are. They're the ultimate judicial check on state power, ensuring constitutional rights are protected.
So the message for listeners is, even if an encounter feels wrong or abusive, you're not stuck. There are ways to seek justice, to hold people accountable.
Precisely. It's a multi-layered system. Individual awareness is key in the moment, yes. But there are institutional safeguards, legal pathways designed for accountability. It's all part of ensuring the rule of law.
Practical engagement, dos and don'ts.
Okay, so we've covered the rights, we've covered what to do if they're violated. But let's get back to the interaction itself. Beyond the legal specifics, how you actually handle the encounter matters hugely, doesn't it? What are the practical do's and don'ts?
Absolutely. This is where knowing your rights meets practical action. How you behave can really shape the interaction. The sources give some very clear guidelines. Let's start with the DOs. First, and maybe most importantly, stay calm. Easier said than done sometimes, I know. But panic or aggression almost always makes things worse. Staying calm helps you think clearly, remember your rights, and it sets a less confrontational tone.
Keeps things from escalating.
Exactly. Second, be respectful. Again, politeness can be surprisingly effective. Using sir or madam, keeping your tone even, it doesn't mean you're giving up your rights, just that you're engaging professionally. It often encourages the same in return.
Treat them professionally, hope they reciprocate. Makes sense.
Third, ask your rights politely. We touched on this. Assert your rights, yes, but do it respectfully. May I know why I'm stopped? Not, why the hell did you stop me? Calm assertion, not aggression.
Right. And the fourth, do.
Record names, time, location. Back to documentation. Note down the officer's details, the vehicle, the time, the place. Crucial if you need to follow up later. You can even say, I'm just noting these details down.
Okay, those are the do's. Calm, respectful, assertive, document. What about the don'ts? The things to absolutely avoid.
Right. The don'ts are just as critical for your safety and legal standing. First big one, don't run or resist. Never a good idea. Trying to flee or physically resisting lawful commands, that can lead to much more serious charges. Obstruction, resisting arrest, even assault. Even if you think the stop is unfair, deal with that later through proper channels. Don't resist physically.
Resisting just digs a deeper hole.
Almost always, yes. Second, don't use foul language or be abusive. Losing your temper, swearing, insulting officers, it escalates things immediately, makes you look bad, and invites a potentially harsher response. Keep it civil, even if you're upset.
Focus on the issue, not insults.
Exactly. And third, don't argue aggressively. Stand firm on your rights. State your position clearly, yes. But getting into a shouting match or a prolonged, heated debate on the roadside, it's counterproductive. State your point, I don't consent to a search, or I wish to speak to my lawyer, and if they insist unlawfully, note it down and challenge it later. The street isn't a courtroom.
So it really sounds like finding that sweet spot, respecting the law, the officer's role, but absolutely standing your ground on your fundamental rights. It's strategic, not passive.
That's a perfect way to put it. It is strategic engagement. These do's and don'ts aren't about giving in. They're about exercising your rights smartly, safely. It's about controlling what you can control in that moment, your own behavior, to protect yourself, minimize risk, and make sure you have a solid foundation if you need to seek redress later. It's proactive self-protection. Outro.
So there you have it. We've unpacked quite a bit today, your comprehensive legal survival kit for dealing with police stops in India. We've gone from why you might be stopped in the first place, through all those critical rights, knowing the reason, staying silent, police ID, special rules for women, contacting help, medical checks, then what to do if things go wrong, the avenues for complaints and legal action, and finally, there's really practical tips on how to actually handle the interaction. It's a lot, but hopefully really useful.
It is a lot. But what's fascinating, I think, is seeing how all these different pieces, the legal sections, the practical advice, they all weave together. They form a kind of shield. Every bit matters, you know? Knowing Section 50, understanding Article 23, remembering to ask for ID, it all builds this holistic understanding. Knowledge really is power when you know how to apply it.
And that really is the core message, isn't it? Knowing your rights is your superpower. It's the best tool you have to stay informed, stay safe, stay empowered in what can be a very stressful situation. We've armed you with a lot of insights today. But maybe this leaves us with a bigger question to think about, something to mull over after listening. How can understanding and asserting these individual rights not just protect you personally, but how can it contribute collectively to a larger culture of accountability? A system where these rights aren't just on paper, but are consistently respected for everyone. How do we get there?
That's a really profound question. It moves beyond just self-protection to thinking about systemic change and societal responsibility. Definitely something to ponder. Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and yeah, keep asking those deep questions.